This show is brought to you by Nedbank Business Banking. Wouldn't you rather have a bank that puts the expert back into expertise? Search Nedbank Bigger Picture Business Banking.
We are in a venue at Constitution Hill, one of the country's valuable historic political landmarks. And even this heritage site couldn't escape the economic snowball effect of COVID-19. As tourism ground to a halt, there were no visitors, and no visitors means no money and no jobs. So like business, it had to reinvent to survive. And there are some general business lessons to be learned. Let's find out. Lebogang, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. I mean, this is such a historic political landmark, and yet you haven't escaped the ravages of COVID-19 and the pandemic, have you?
Absolutely not. I think with COVID, the impact on the tourism sector, you can't deny that it was huge. More so because we drew large of visitorship from international markets. So the impact was big, and we are still trying to recover from that by implementing various strategies, such as working with local markets and ensuring that we develop and have a local market to draw from.
Where did you start to say how you would repair this potential impact?
I think, and you speak about the important aspect, the heritage assets. So for us, that's power, that magic wand. We possess a deep history of South Africa as a heritage site. I mean, you speak of South Africa and you cannot not speak about Constitution Hill. And that's where first point of call was to say, how is it that we leverage on the history of the site to actually resuscitate revenue streams such as your venue hire? How do you sell a venue using your own heritage asset to draw in audiences, but also ensuring that you adhere to the protocols? How do you ensure that you still maintain your programming online using your heritage asset? So for us, the marketing and communication part of it became very important, using that history that we speak about.
Let me ask you about feelings of hopelessness at points. And I'm putting that to you because you see the business world out there really losing faith in the future when numbers fell to the ground. How did you feel at times?
1 minute, the site is buzzing. And the next, you don't have people coming through your gates, there's no footfall. But I think where growth mentality set in was when we went into the drawing board and looked at what is it that we do in a time like this. And what was obvious was to actually take opportunity to introduce digital interventions. And I think that's where most people went. For our programming, for our offerings, we had to revise strategies and focus more on how we begin to reach audiences using digital.
What's the future looking like with the lessons learned from this pandemic?
One of the things that we've learned was, as a cultural institution, partnerships are very important, but also not to play it safe, to venture into spaces such as using digital tools, to take the creatives and the tourism players into the digital economy, because I think that's where the future is. So it's one of the things that as Con Hill, we're venturing into, because we recognize that we serve a community. We are here as a key player in the economy, and not just as a museum that tells the political history of the country, which is very important, because there's that element of building social cohesion. But the reality is that cultural institutions need to play a role in how they impact their communities.
Lebogang, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. So there are no sacred cows during a pandemic. Even the places of historic significance we often take for granted must change to keep up with the times. And that is an important lesson for businesses in any sector, big or small. Adapt or die. I'm Devin Murugan, looking at why business matters.
This show was brought to you by Nedbank Business Banking. Wouldn't you rather have a bank that puts the partner back into partnership? Search Nedbank Bigger Picture Business Banking.